Growing up, up until I was 7, my parents were married, and the only memories I have of my parents being together was a lot of fighting and hitting, lots of tears and just abuse. And when I was 7 years old, my parents got divorced. Every summer, per the divorce agreement, I would have to visit my dad for the whole summer. My dad was always really hard on me, and he always made me feel like I had to live up to his standard of beauty. I started going through womanhood very young, and I felt already super pressured to look a certain way, and then my body's changing. So when I was 10 years old is when I developed body dysmorphic disorder. Fast forward 2 summers, I was watching a Lifetime movie, and it was about 2 ballerinas. In a way, I did look up to these 2 girls in the movie. One of them was massively skinny, and the other one, she wanted to know how she got so thin. She could eat whatever she wants. And so the girl took her to the bathroom and showed her, this is how I stay skinny, and she threw up. She made herself throw up. So we were eating dinner, and I just went to the bathroom and I threw up. The only feeling that I can describe how it was is euphoric, almost like a high. When I was 16 years old, it had gotten so bad I would do it 5 or 6 times a day, and it wasn't even stuff that I was binging. It was just anything that I ate. And I remember just sitting in service thinking, this isn't right. What I'm doing to myself is really wrong. I just asked God, I said, God, please help me to get through this, and just help me stop torturing my body. And one day I just stopped, and I told myself that I would get into a healthy lifestyle. My healthiness then led into my anorexia. I would never eat. I looked at food with disgust. I would run for 3 or 4 hours a day, literally until I would almost pass out. In September of 2011, my whole world, in my perspective, came crashing down because my aunt had committed suicide. And she was someone that I was very close to, and someone that I had really looked up to and admired. And with her death and the news of it came some of her dark secrets, and I came to find out that she also had bulimia, and the fact that she took her life because she didn't feel like she was good enough, it really hit home to me. And after that occurred, I just didn't care about anything anymore. I had a hatred for beauty, because in my eyes, that's basically what took my aunt's life. She didn't feel beautiful. For about 2 years, I wasn't myself. I would go to school in sweatpants and no makeup and never wash my hair. I didn't care about that side of me anymore. On December 10th, I was sitting in my room, and I have a box full of cards that I've ever gotten in my life, from birthdays, Christmas, any type of holiday, Easter. And I was going through them, and about 60% of them were from my dad. And I was just looking through them and how he signed them, and there was always, God bless you, always love Dad. And I really thought about that, and I'm like, how can somebody who believes in God be such a horrible person. And I started to feel that hatred I had for my dad once again. And then I just started praying in the Holy Spirit, and God told me, you need to forgive, because once you forgive, your heart will be set free. And I just decided, I was like, I forgive you. And I really came to terms with my father and how he played a role in my life. I became one of the women's leaders at Celebrate Recovery. It did bring up a lot of hurt that I had experienced, and it brought up a lot of suppressed memories that I tried to keep down. But with that came the most healing. After almost having my disorders for 10 years, the thing that I have taken the most from, especially in my recovery, is that love is respect. And the Bible specifically tells us, love God, love yourself, and then love others as you love yourself. One verse that really spoke to me throughout my recovery is Hebrews 12:1. Therefore let us also, seeing we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, lay aside every weight, and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising shame, and hath sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. God has a purpose for everything that he leads us to. If you're uncomfortable, then you're completely where you should be, and you're going to grow from it. And nothing but amazing things will come out of it, and you'll feel so much stronger in the end.
My mom was an alcoholic till I was about 5, and she went into treatment. So me and my brother went into a foster home. When she got out, we were with her for a pretty good time, and then she also had mental illness. So she went into the hospital sporadically through our lives, and it was hard. You know, you kind of feel abandoned. She had lots of boyfriends, which meant I moved around a lot. And so I tried to get her attention a lot by being a really good student, doing really well, but I kind of felt like I wasn't a priority. When I got into 7th grade, I started making bad decisions to get noticed by my mom and other people. So I lost my virginity at 13. And I didn't really care at that point. I was kind of numb. By 15, I had a boyfriend, and I thought we were pretty serious. And we were sexually active. And we were kind of getting to that point where you break up. I really wanted him to be a part of my life, but he really didn't. He was a normal teenage guy. And so we were on again, off again, and I found out I was pregnant. And I also found out he secretly taped us and showed a lot of guys. And so after finding out I was pregnant and that, I just felt completely worthless, disposable. And that was all I was going to ever be. But I had my daughter, and she changed my life for the better. She was beautiful, and I wanted to be a good mom. My mom was doing okay at this point, so she helped me a lot with my daughter, and I decided I wanted to do more things in life. So instead of doing high school the normal way, I went into Running Start and did college. I kind of wanted to excel at everything. I was working, trying to be a good mom, but I was tired I came back from taking my SATs, and my grandma had watched my daughter, and when I got there, there was this guy there who was my grandma's best friend's son. And he was so sweet with Kylie, and not in a way that was trying to get my attention or anything. But I was just like, screw guys, you know, they're only out for one thing, stuff like that. But then, you know, I went home, still finished up that quarter, and saw him again at Christmas because his family wasn't around, but he was with my grandma, and he invited me to church. And I thought, this guy is so lame. But I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't really have any friends, and my grandma said she'd watch my daughter, so I went. It was strange because I didn't have to pretend to be anybody, and I started to feel God's love, and it was really weird and odd for someone to love me after all I had done. I wanted to feel his love all the time. So I continued to go to church. And the guy that was my friend, we actually ended up dating. And even though men are not the answer to anything, I think God used him as a positive male in my life. And he treated me well, and we were friends, and I developed a love for him. So we continued to grow in a healthy relationship, and Kylie and him really formed a bond, and we ended up getting married. We've been married for 16 years, and I feel like I finally am the woman I knew I could be. God loves me, and we're still a work in progress. He's never let go of me. He's never abandoned me, and I'm wanted by him. I'm able to look back and realize that I was in his care the whole time, but he took what I made my life and made beauty out of my ashes.
I was born in a Christian family. My parents were really involved in the church that we went to. They were worship leaders for a time being, and I remember I really looked up to them. But even though we went to church, I wouldn't say that they were a good representation of what like a Christian would be, knowing now. We had problems in our family just like any other family. My mom liked to party, and she would be out for days probably. We couldn't get a hold of her. And my dad had anger issues, and he was kind of verbally abusive and sometimes physically abusive. And they also had unfaithfulness in their relationship. That was going on up until probably my 6th grade year when they decided that they were going to separate. And I started seeing things in my mom that I didn't like about her. I thought she was a fool, and I was young, so I started to kind of rebel against her. I've never really had girlfriends, like a group of girls that I hung out with, but there was this group of girls, and they liked to party, and they were really promiscuous. I started going to parties with them, and I remember my first party, people were just like, why are you here? You don't belong here, you know, you don't seem like the type to be here. And I'm like, oh, I can hang out with you guys. And eventually I went to more parties, and that just kind of became my lifestyle. I also was introduced to smoking pot, and I became what people would call a pothead. My relationship with my mom at that point got really, really bad. I think when I was 17, almost 18, I had a stupid fight with my mom because we fought a lot, and I got kicked out of my house. I was hurt, but I was ready, like, to go. I was just like, fine, if you don't want me here, then I'm just gonna leave, like, I don't care. And I just packed up my stuff, and I ended up at my boyfriend's house at the time. But while I was living there, like, our lifestyle continued. We continued to party, and I continued to hang out with the same people who like to do drugs and smoke and that kind of stuff. And it was really destructive, not only on our relationship, but just like our friendship. And he broke up with me probably about a year into me living there. I don't know, it was just a really depressing time for me. I was kicked out of my house and stuck in a place where I didn't drive, I didn't have a job, I didn't have anything to become an adult or a better person. And so I was stuck there at his house, and we weren't together anymore, and I just didn't really know what to do. I had been friends with this girl named Victoria for a while during high school, and when me and my boyfriend broke up, I'd already been in contact with her, but she had been going to a church called East Point in Bonnie Lake, and invited me to go with her. The first time that we went to church, she asked me if I wanted to smoke. I chose to do that before church, so I guess I wasn't completely ready to let go of the things that I was into. While I was there, I did get bits of truth. I remember we went to this place called like the Prayer House, and I started seeking out Jesus at that time because I'd been hearing these things that they're talking about at the church that I never really understood. I kind of fell out of that church, and I went back to my old ways. I started dating a guy that I had known from like junior high through high school. It was purely just like partying and physical between him and I. There was no like friendship really, and I just remember God kind of starting to speak to me, and I don't think I knew that it was God's voice, but it was like I didn't want to be with this person, and I remember praying and asking God to give me a reason to break ties with him. I was in my room and I was looking at his phone, and I think he got like a message, and I clicked on it, and it like opened up this chance for me to like look and see what was going on in his phone, and obviously it was not good, but I did that, and I looked at the message that was right below that, and it was to a girl that he was saying that he knew that we were together, but he wanted to be with her. And I found out about that, and I was really angry, but at the same time I knew that was an answer from God, that he was like giving me a reason, a really good reason to just be like, bye, like I don't need you in my life. After I called him, I felt like I was hearing God speaking to me again. And when we have storms in our life, the most powerful thing that we can do is to praise God in that storm. And I didn't really know who Jesus was. I didn't have a relationship with him or really anything other than knowing that like God existed. And I just remember being in my room, I turned on what little worship music I did have on my iPod, and I just praised God in that storm. Through everything, I realized that we can't place such a high standard on people when the only person that we should really be looking to for that, for our strength and for guidance, would be God.
So I grew up in a Christian home, and my family was always really involved in the church. But it wasn't about until 7th or 8th grade when I just had this epiphany that my relationship with Jesus isn't my parents' relationship, and it isn't my church relationship. And so that was just really exciting to start living a Christ-centered life, knowing that Jesus was by my side and in my heart, and he wasn't just in the Bible or just at church. I definitely didn't come without struggles, though. About 2 years ago, I had a really bad case of anxiety, and for almost an entire year, without anybody knowing, I was worrying all the time and overanalyzing everything. And one time in the first period, I was freaking out about something. I don't remember what it was, but I had an anxiety attack, and I passed out. And I got up, and I was thinking, I really have to tell somebody about this. This isn't normal, and I didn't. And I just started to think, if this was how it's going to be for the rest of my life, if I was going to have to deal with this worrying all this time and passing out and panic attacks, then why waste my time with Jesus? Why waste my time being a part of something that's not going to help? It came to a point almost where I didn't know who I was anymore. Like I couldn't pinpoint who I was, and I couldn't define myself. so after passing out so many times and being in that, I just broke down one night and thinking, you know, I didn't want this anymore. Just in the middle of the night, weeping and on my knees, you know, saying, Lord, who am I because of this? Because of my circumstance, who am I now? And I remember God telling me, just in the quiet of my heart, that no matter what I do, and no matter what I go through, no matter circumstance, no matter health issue, that I'm not defined by what I do. I'm defined by what Jesus says I am, and I am loved by Him, and that's the definition of me. I told one of my youth leaders, and we prayed about it, and after a couple weeks, I was healed from my anxiety. Not completely. I still get anxious from time to time, but I was healed from that constant worrying. As a teenage girl, we go through so many things that we think we're going through alone. And there are so many things that we're not sure of, and so many situations that we're just not sure of, and we just try to deal with it ourselves. Seek help and seek prayer from people constantly, because you never know when you're really going to need it. I feel like my testimony is something that constantly builds, and with each new story, you gain a new perspective. And what would life be without new stories and new adventures? Whether those adventures are bad or good, they still give you new thoughts and new ideas on how to love your life. So that's really important.